Don't let this reach Addie. If she finds out, you know the consequences. Yes, yes. She'll never find out, they quickly assured him. Every word of their conversation reached Adele's ears. The laughter and teasing inside carried on, oblivious to the fact that Adele's world had turned to ice. Her body felt numb, her legs shaky beneath her, as if she were no more than an empty shell. Without thinking, she stumbled out of the building, moving as though on autopilot. The driver, noticing something was wrong, rushed toward her, intending to inform Elias, but Adele stopped him immediately. Don't take me home. I'll walk by myself, she said, her voice hollow. And don't tell Elias I was here. The driver hesitated but obeyed, watching as she turned and disappeared down the empty street. Rain began to pour in torrents, drenching her in moments, but she didn't seem to notice. The icy drops falling against her skin only sharpened her clarity. She had no idea how long she walked. It felt endless, like a lifetime. Even longer than that snowy night when she was 17, the time Elias carried her home after she sprained her ankle. So this is how quickly love can change, she thought to herself. When Adele returned home, a high fever overtook her, refusing to break. Elias stumbled in later that night, reeking of alcohol, only to find Adele unconscious, her cheeks flushed an alarming red. Panic washed over him as he rushed to pick her up and drove her straight to the hospital. When Adele finally regained consciousness, her heavy eyelids fluttered open with great effort. Seeing her awake, the nurse who had been changing her for lit up with delight. Mrs. Sterling, you're finally awake. You've been running a fever for over a day. Mr. Sterling was so worried. He stayed by your bedside the entire time. He only just stepped out to take a call. Should I go tell him you're awake? He'll be so happy to hear it. Adele shook her head weakly, her voice rough and hoarse. No need. The nurse didn't press further. After carefully adjusting her for, she left the room respectfully. The spacious hospital room fell into silence, so quiet that Adele could hear Elias' voice faintly drifting in from the hallway, that he was always so composed, only losing his cool in front of her. But now, his voice carried an unfamiliar lightness. There was excitement and even joy. Moments later, the sound of his footsteps faded into the distance. He had left. Summoning all her strength, Adele climbed out of bed, her movements slow and unsteady. She followed the direction of his voice, step by step, down several floors. Just as she reached the corridor, she froze. Elias was walking out of the obstetrics department, his arm supporting Evelyn. Both of them were smiling, their joy unmistakable, their lips curving into grins they couldn't suppress. The moment Evelyn spotted Adele, her eyes widened with mock surprise, and she exclaimed, Mrs. Sterling, what a coincidence. Are you here at the hospital too? At her words, Elias' head snapped up. His gaze locked with Adele's across the corridor, and his entire body stiffened. Caught off guard, he quickly released Evelyn's arm, his expression tightening with unease. Addie, I went downstairs to get your medication and accidentally ran into Evelyn. She's pregnant, and I was worried something might happen, so I just helped her for a moment, Elias explained hastily, his tone flustered as if terrified she might misunderstand. Adele's gaze drifted to Evelyn's stomach, her breath catching painfully in her chest. She closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself, before speaking evenly. Miss Lowe, when did you find out you were pregnant? And why isn't the child's father here? Evelyn's face lit up with delight as she rested a hand on her stomach, her smile sickeningly sweet. I just found out I'm 1 month pregnant. The baby's father couldn't make it today because he's busy, but he was over the moon when I told him. He's already bought me a few villas, transferred me $2 million, and tonight, he's even planning a citywide fireworks display to celebrate our love and the baby we're about to have. She beamed with pride, practically glowing as she boasted. However, Adele simply looked at her in silence for a long moment before forcing a faint smile. Is that so? Evelyn's smile grew smug as she pressed on. Yes, Mrs. Sterling. Since you're free today, why don't we grab dinner together? I can invite the baby's father to join us. At her words, Elias' expression darkened immediately. His gaze snapped to Evelyn, sharp and menacing, instantly silencing her. That won't be necessary. Addie doesn't have time for that. Turning back to Adele, Elias pulled her gently into his arms, his voice soft and coaxing. Addie, you're still not feeling well. Don't push yourself by wandering around. She's just a spokesperson, he added dismissively, his tone suddenly cold. Not worth paying attention to. Evelyn's face flushed pale, then red at his words. Her expression twisted between anger and humiliation as tears welled up in her eyes. Lowering her head like a wounded animal, she bit her lip and murmured, "You're right. I was out of line. How could I ever think I'd be worthy of sitting at the same table as Mrs. Sterling?" With that, she wiped at her eyes, turning away in a huff and storming off. Her figure trembling with barely contained frustration. Elias' expression shifted, and for a moment, he looked as though he might rush after Evelyn. But when his gaze landed on Adele, who stood calmly watching him, he hesitated and ultimately stayed put. After collecting a pile of prescriptions, Adele was discharged and returned home. Perhaps still rattled from his outburst at Evelyn earlier, Elias seemed distracted the entire ride back. Once they arrived, he made a vague excuse about work and locked himself away in the study. As soon as Adele stepped into her bedroom, her phone buzzed with a message from Evelyn. It was a photo of a prenatal examination report. What followed was a series of taunting messages. "Adele, I know you figured it out today. The baby is Elias. Don't fool yourself into thinking he loves you that much. If he really did, what does my existence mean? Do you even know how obsessed he is with me? Every year, on your birthday and your wedding anniversary, he puts you to bed and comes to me. He's insatiable. We go through boxes of condoms every time. And the next day, I can't even get out of bed. We've left traces of our love everywhere. His Maybach, his office, even your marital bed. 72 positions, he's tried them all with me. They say love and intimacy go hand in hand. Has he ever been that passionate with you?" Reading the messages, Adele took a deep breath, forcing herself to suppress the storm of emotions raging inside her. She turned off her phone just as Elias wrapped his arms around her from behind. "What are you looking at, sweetheart?" he murmured, resting his chin on the curve of her neck. All he saw was the blank, dark screen of her phone. "It's nothing," Adele said quietly, her reddened eyes fixed on the view outside the window. The next moment, the night sky burst into a riot of fireworks, dazzling and vibrant. Adele immediately remembered Evelyn's words from earlier, how Elias had planned a citywide fireworks display to celebrate her pregnancy. Noticing Adele's gaze lingering on the fireworks, Elias' eyes softened with affection. "Do you like this? I'll arrange an even grander display just for you. Better than this one, I promise," he said, holding her tightly and coaxing her with his gentle tone. Adele smiled faintly, but her smile was tinged with bitterness and tears. "Elias," she said softly, her voice carrying a sharp edge, "I don't like things that others have already used. Whether it was fireworks or people." Elias froze for a moment, her words piercing through him. Though she was clearly talking about the fireworks, his chest tightened with an inexplicable sense of panic. After a brief silence, he pulled her closer. "Then I'll prepare something else. Something that's only for you. I'll make sure you never feel jealous of anyone else." Adele said nothing, her gaze distant as she stared out at the horizon. She didn't reply. For the next several days, Elias left early and returned late, his behavior shrouded in secrecy. Even the household staff noticed something was unusual and couldn't help but tease. "Mrs. Sterling, it seems Mr. Sterling is secretly planning a surprise for you." "Yes, he's so devoted. First, he had a piece of custom jewelry made for you. And now he's working on something else. One surprise after another. He never runs out of ways to spoil you." But Adele remained expressionless, listening to their chatter without a hint of reaction. That evening, Elias took her hand, his excitement barely concealed as he led her to the door. "Addie, I'm taking you somewhere. You'll love it," he said with a smile. Adele was about to refuse when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Evelyn. "Adele, why don't you guess who's more important to him now? You or me?"